Bonjour.
Hello everyone. Thank you for being so many of you in attendance this morning to help us address this reality, this terrible reality that will be today the CSR, because we have environmental and social concerns, and often when that happens, environment is in the back burner, and we see a backlash on the social and economic front. Is it just a feeling? Are businesses giving up when facing this crisis? If they give up, or if they revisit the CSR strategy, what consequence can it have? And CSR shouldn't be limited to mere talk in the air, but we should actually walk the talk. So for this, we have Ariel MENDEZ from the Cercle des économistes, who's at the University of Aix-Marseille. We also have Marie-Aude, who's the General Director of CNP Assurance. You are an important stakeholder in France, but also in Brazil. It's a company with 8,500 employees and 30 million turnover. We also have Olivier LENEL in this roundtable. You are the president and general manager of Forvis Mazars France. This is a group which is specialized in auditing and advisory. You have 41 offices. We also have the pleasure to have Christophe FANICHET. You are the CEO of SNCF Voyageurs, one of the 50 companies in the group of SNCF that deals with the travelers and user services. That's a huge company with 65,000 employees. And Elisabeth MORENO, you are the president of the board of Ring Capital, which is a social impact fund. That means that you only invest in companies that find solutions to social and environmental problems. Ring Capital is B Corp certified. I would like to insist on that. And you were a minister in charge of diversity and gender equality. I won't say more, Ariel, maybe a few words of introduction on this subject of CSR under pressure. Thank you, Séverin. Hello, everyone. Today, we were asked to think about CSR under pressure. If we raise this issue, as already was said, it's because we are in a lot of turmoil today with social issues affecting businesses. Businesses may not find it as a priority anymore. May it be for the corporate world, but also for political decision makers. But before we had some awareness, but since 2022, inflation and instability and AI and high tech may have put CSR issues in the back burner. However, it is a strategic requirement that should be obvious. Investors include ESG criteria, social governance. We'll have a session on this during the rencontre. So they include these issues in their decision-making process. And we see also more and more legal obligations at the European level, like the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive that would impact thousands of businesses. What we see today is contradictory trends with more regulations, more obligations. We have concrete actions on the one side, but we also have a climate which is going against the protection of the environment, against civism. And I think this is what we have to keep in mind when talking about this. This period of strong instability, of uncertainties, have consequences for CSR. If we believe the last barometer that was published in 2024, the concern for social and ecological transition has gone down by 34% among economic stakeholders. Maybe not those that are in attendance today, but we are going back to the pre-COVID area, which entails a certain fragility. So I have two questions for you. First, what about the setback from CSR? Is it a good idea? There are a lot of works carried on right now saying that the backlash is actually a double ecological mistake because there are social inequalities that can have short-term and long-term impacts that could be detrimental. We've seen it in Spain. And also another event that is actually struck by important events and what we've seen today, businesses need to be resilient. That means that they have continuous reconstruction capacities. But what we've seen is that businesses that are indeed responsible, not those that actually just talk in the air, those that actually walk the talk are more resilient because they inspire trust and confidence among their partners. And Linclinger's studies actually show that. So how can we make sure that CSR is not limited to simply lip talk, but lip service? We see a distinction between an old sustainability that would be embedded in a weak sustainability paradigm, a paradigm of business and society whereby it is built parallelly to the society, and a more recent CSR emerging after the COP21, whereby we embed it in a strong sustainability logic, which is a logic of business in, not a business and logic, but a business in logic, not side by side, but embedded inside the society. So when the CSR strategy of a certain number of economic sustainability is in a weak sustainability, which targets their own economic targets and not sustainability as sustainable development is meant, then it will be in a back end, in a dead end. We need to sustain initiatives. We need to promote virtuous circles. We cannot give up to economic populism. And please, you can understand what I mean here. I think we are fortunate because with us we have virtuous circle examples. Thank you. We'll see if we have the right examples. We have a public insurance company that belongs to La Poste among us, who's got two jobs, finance and investment. Insurance. What does it mean to be socially responsible in a company such as yours? And in which way do you do it? And in which way does crisis or do crises, recent crises, post-COVID crisis, have made your strategy and CSR strategy evolve? Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation that was given to me. I wanted to participate to this roundtable because as I am a public insurance company within La Poste Group, which is a huge state-owned company, for us, CSR is at the heart of our strategy. Beyond the issues that we encounter today in our organization, against the backdrop of instability, we see that it is indispensable to have CSR at the heart of our business model and not to have it on the side or to go backwards every time there's a problem coming up. We are an investor, and I would like to share three important convictions. First, to be socially responsible, the company needs to integrate CSR issues in its value creation over the long term and not treat them on the side. So it's a cultural issue that goes beyond the issues of structural crisis. And I would like to take, for instance, the demographic transition issue. We know that we have a problem of population aging. And as an insurance company, I would like to talk more specifically about dependence. What does it mean? Costs are going to increase to reach 2.8% of GDP by 2060. And so the question is, what will it entail for us, this issue of dependence? That means that we have to anticipate, we have to adapt our supply, and we need to make useful investments to prevent that risk, but also to try to mitigate this loss of autonomy. We need to create a value chain that would integrate the issues of solidarity, accessibility, innovation, social innovation, to make sure that we mitigate this dependence issue. It's very important. The Caisse des Dépôts and Consignateurs has announced an investment in the ballpark of 25 million euros to fund elderly people issues and health-related issues. As an insurance company, we have acted. As a public company, we have insurance. So we have billions of investments, but we can influence somehow in this way, thanks to investment in an indirect way, 30 billion of a green investment to assist this ecological transition. And we've seen it, but maybe less, via shareholding. We have used our shareholding structures as a tool for strategic influence to make practices evolve. And that allows us to have in our strategy to reinforce ESG governance, to encourage decarbonation pathways that are more credible. And also we go towards sensitive issues, and we try to urge companies to have more sustainable practices. We try to be more demanding, to favor long-term strategies to protect our investments. We've seen that how we can both combine the short term and the long term to protect the value of our investments. My second conviction, and it's a good piece of news, I have to say, is that environmental and societal issues are also an important driver to stand out on our market and to promote innovation. So as an insurance company, we can and we should actually move the limits of sustainability thanks to our strategy. We are in a world which is more and more unstable, where we need to protect a larger number of people. This is our conviction. We have 36 million insured people, and in this way we can mitigate and pool the risk. I'm going to give you concrete examples to do so. We have launched an initiative last year for people that are affected by breast cancer, so that they can have access to a borrower's insurance at the end of their treatment. That means that in the law, there's a right to being forgotten, which is so we have to wait for 5 years. We wait for the end of the therapeutic treatment, and since we wanted to enlarge this to other cancers, but also to male cancers. This is how we act to promote sustainability. We are also present in Brazil, and in Brazil, we are a comprehensive insurance company on life insurance, but also non-life insurance, but also on micro-insurances. And we have 1 million people with low revenue that are also under our purview. So this is an important field of scope for pooling purposes, for risk pooling purposes. As an employer, and I would like to highlight that, it is a strong driver of collaboration adhesion, because our employees adhere to our policies. It's not a fashion trend. It's actually deep principles and values that are part and parcel of our DNA. And we have a strong adhesion from our employees. And this is why we have the best score on gender equality as well. It's not lip service only. My last conviction, and to go back to what you said, I think that nothing affects our determination. Crisis actually make sure we're not affected by crisis. We are more and more adamant. CSR issues are important to us, even though the situation is not easy. We are convinced that thanks to all this, we can absorb climatic, social mutations, and we can reinforce our model. A company that includes these sustainable policies will be the most resilient ones. I'm convinced of it. And I think that the fate of a company is always linked hand in hand with the environment. And this is why we have to deal with transitions. And when facing a crisis, it's not only a matter of good ethics, but also a matter of good strategy and common sense. We can applaud what she has said, because she's actually showing a beautiful snapshot of a reality. Is it also the truth in a private sector when we have a multi-advisory firm? As Marie-Aude said, I'm delighted to be with you today. We managed to get a bit of fresh air, so it's good. As far as I'm concerned, CSR is a compass. It's a compass for businesses, and it's all the more important that it helps us maintain our pathway when we have a crisis ahead of us. It's a benchmark. It's a beacon. And I think that our businesses and our business leaders have more and more responsibilities to cope with. Every year, we have more and more responsibilities. And as you know, in all the surveys carried out with the population, a company is recognized as this first stakeholder of the company, far beyond and above policy and political decision makers. So it's an important role, and it's a good piece of news in a way. To follow up on the introduction, all those that are here in attendance today, I think, would confirm that having a real embedded CSR strategy in the corporate policy is a better anticipation of risks. It means a better resilience, better adjustment, better attractiveness, something that is actually enhanced. We are a specific company. We are 5,000 in France. We are part of professional services companies. We are regulated a company. Our compass brings us to help customers, but also we rely on our talents and the human capital that we develop year after year. We do it for our own sake, of course, with our 5,000 employees, but also with 20% of turnover. You can understand that we do it for the society with a big S, a capital S. And this is our main and most precious asset. I'll give you 3 examples of what we do right now as we speak. Whether there's a crisis or not, we've had more golden eras, of course, in the past, but still. First, let's call hybridization of our employees. Maybe it's going to make you smile, but it means that amidst our activities, we have to teach them some skills. May they be financial, extra-financial skills around digital, data, AI issues. We talk about speaking 3 languages, so it's a lot of investment, a lot of training, a lot of experiments. And this is our promise as an employer for our company and to the benefit of all the branches in the widest sense of the meaning and for the society at large. We talk about skill-based organization. This is the idea of going beyond the French typical formats where we have career paths based on academic achievements, and we try to have dynamic careers based on the acquisition of skills and how to assess these new skill acquisitions. And then I will follow up on another perspective. We also have a commitment to parenting and mixity. We have set up a second parent leave, so for the second parent to be able to have a parent leave that would be paid in full as we would for a mother who's working with us. That's not yet a public measure. As you know, it's not a state measure yet, but we have it in our company. Another pillar, it's legacy transmission, because it is important, as Mr. Mazars, Mr. Mazars' legacy is very important to us. And so we have a commitment towards the young generation, cultural institutions that make and that provide for this transmission of legacy. And then another pillar of commitment and responsibility, it's our commitment to stay in all the French territories. We have 5,000, we're present in 40 offices, and in our industry, we're the last one to offer this proximity and outreach to the outside world with Florence Mazars. Forvis Mazars is present with 8,000 employees in the US, among others. Thank you, Olivier. Maybe we'll go back to you afterwards if we have some time left. A round of applause to him, obviously. When you were talking about 3 languages, about being able to speak 3 languages, your employees are trained on financial and extra financial data and skills, right? That both sets of skills are important, is it? Yes. They have no choice but to integrate a logic of financial performance with extra financial performance. And we are actually helping them to do so, to include data, AI. We may talk about this later on. With Christophe FANICHET, we'll change sector and we'll talk about another type of format. You are directly in contact with the public at large, the general public. So, in a company of the size of your company, do you manage to put CSR at the heart of your strategy? And in what way does the crisis, or have the crises, make your strategy evolve? Thank you. Hello, everyone. For SNCF Voyageurs company, we have had 3 stages as regards CSR. First, we had to be made aware of the importance of CSR. Secondly, we had to ramp up our CSR strategy when facing the shocks and the crises that we mentioned earlier. And then we take full consideration of CSR, and with the R of CSR, which actually entails a better management of risks. Awareness raising, as the first stage, was a moment when CSR was on the sideline. And now it's embedded in the heart of the company. We were talking about the digital age. CSR's arrival is often compared to what happened to the digital era in the years 2010, when we had a CDO on the sideline, whose objective, and this is the case of CSR now, is to be a bit of a scapegoat and talking about the issues, but on the sideline, not being part and parcel of all the strategies and policies of the company, always on the sideline. And I think that being aware of the importance of CSR is now a done deal. It was important to become aware of it, and now after the years 2015, 2016. It's part and parcel of our strategy at all the levels. First, the meaning that we give to our strategy, we see it in our hiring practices. We see it in our investments. CSR is part and parcel of our investments. They are more solid, and also with our customers. I'm not going to talk about all the slogans of our company, but this is really at the heart of our policy. And what we really wanted to do is we trained all our managers on CSR, 4,000 managers, like for Mazars, and it's part and parcel of their career training pathway. If they do not go through a CSR training, they cannot be promoted. Second stage, the crisis, as you said in your introduction, these shocks, these crises were an opportunity to ramp up on CSR issues. We've had crisis, COVID, the yellow jackets, and how to live together. And we've seen that there were essential issues to address, that there were also territorial gaps, procurement power gaps, and the company has a role to play. And via CSR, this is how we could address it. The company has a role to give meaning to everything for employees, to have a better private life and professional life balance. These crises helped us to see them. And second crisis also, an energy crisis that we had to go through and face. A lot of you are aware of it. SNCF Voyageurs is the first consumer of electric energy. 2% of electric energy of France is consumed by us for the railways, for our trains. And we managed to speed up all our plans in terms of sobriety. That means eco-driving, railway eco-driving, and thanks to that, we managed to earn 7 to 12%, to make 7 to 12% of savings, and that's very important for our company. So after becoming aware of the importance of CSR, we have managed to put CSR at the heart of our strategy. Now, let's talk about the third stage. I think the R is responsibility. It is true, and it's very important.
De RSE, c'est aussi.
I think the CSR era is all about how I manage the risks in my company. So one of the surveys that surprised us was that by 2050, we're told that if we don't pay attention to climate change, up to 25% of our corporate profits could fade away. If we take a closer look, 2030, which is just overnight, it's the 2% of our hours worked will be lost. You can see we've all got fans here, we're using it. You've seen the heat wave we've experienced this week. 2% of hours worked will be lost. So when you look at what we do, train travel, how in a company like ours can we make ourselves more resilient? How can we make the train track more resilient? How can our trains be more resilient? These are realities for us today. One delay in 10 is to do with climate change issues, heat, flooding, wind. All we need to do is look at what's going on in our weather and environment. There are 2 to 3 times more trees falling on the tracks, and so it disrupts our services. So as a company, how do I manage risks? It's not just about my responsibility. So those are 3 phases in CSR. It's first of all, how did CSR move from like the king's fool to say this is what's going on, to how am I going to manage risks for tomorrow, in the future? Thank you very much. Elisabeth MORENO, I'm really sorry because you're in a very uncomfortable role. We've got 3 heads of companies who are saying CSR is amazing. We're talking about training, resilience. They're saying you need to go for it. It's the life of our business is that it's at stake if we don't embrace it. But nonetheless, we all have the impression that financial crisis, inflation, political and geopolitical instability is meaning that our businesses are facing a lot of risks and they're often focusing in on their core business. You have perhaps a bit more of a cross-cutting vision of these issues and a range of different business sectors. Could you tell me what you think of what I've been saying? We've got the top businesses here in X. Do you think it's maybe not totally representative of what's going on elsewhere in France and around Europe? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here with you and to be part of this panel with some highly committed business leaders. You give me faith in the future, and it's interesting that you've asked the question in this way, because I was listening to these guys and I was thinking that I should suggest to Mr. Lorenzi and the team for the Cercle des économistes this issue of CSR is a real key issue, and I want to suggest that they have a panel where you have two people speaking for it and two people speaking against it, because the reality is if you have just people who are genuinely, sincerely committed to CSR, and I know the issues that these businesses are facing and what each of these leaders are facing, because we know that CSR is an issue of leadership. You've been talking about responsibility. All of the companies that I see genuinely committed to CSR are so committed because it's come from a strategic decision by the business leader and the management committee. All companies that talk about CSR in their marketing and their communications, you'll have obviously noticed that for many businesses, CSR is something that's to do with marketing. These are the businesses that take a step back when things are a bit shaky. There's a lot of them. Well, perhaps maybe not quite as many as all that, I would say. CNP Assurance is a company I know well. For decades, they've been doing lots of different things, and when I say to them, why aren't you talking about it? They said, we don't need to talk about it because that's part of our values. But the thing is that for those for whom it's not part of their values and who only use it as part of their marketing and communication, I think someone once was quoted as saying, culture is a bit like jam. The more you have, the less you spread it about. You could say the same thing about CSR. The more you have it, the less you spread it about. So there are some very committed companies which do a large number of very concrete and smart actions which have real impact on people's life, and they're not talking about it either because they're afraid that people say they're just doing it so they can talk about it, or perhaps because it's so obvious, so it's second nature to them that they don't even need to talk about it. You won't have missed that we're living in a world of incredible paradoxes and ambiguities. All of the different crises we've been facing, geopolitical, environmental, health-related crises, highlight the fragility of our society and our humanity. So the things that we realize is that we are facing a range of contradictions, powerful contradictions. Those companies that have decided to take a step back with regards to CSR are shooting themselves in the foot, not with one but with two bullets, and they don't realize it. And then some companies are just saying, well, whatever, the disaster is coming. But the first bullet they're shooting in their own feet is about confidence and trust. In the period like what we're experiencing today, trust is a vital pillar for customers, for staff members, for everyone who is buying that company's products and services. Trust is a vital pillar. How do you think that Meta colleagues will respond when their leader says they need more masculinity in their businesses? As a woman, if I was working for Meta, I'd be really struggling with that. So what would happen if you work for Accenture and during over the last 20 years, this company has done a number of brilliant studies to say that CSR is essential, and they start to announce that, well, maybe, perhaps we're making a bit too much of it. How would you respond? How would you react? If you were a company like Google that for 20 years or more, you had put these CSR issues at the heart of your activity, and then you say, well, now you've got a lot of business going on in the USA, and if we weren't to work with the federal government, it would be something we were struggling with. Trust that is something that takes a long time to build, but can be lost overnight. And the second way in which companies are shooting themselves in the foot is with the realities that they're confronted with. You'll have undoubtedly read articles in the press about companies that are struggling because they've got employees who are refusing to come back to work in the office full time. 30% of employees around the world after lockdowns didn't want to come back to the office to work. Rather than asking why there is such a significant labour relations crisis in businesses, what are the companies doing? They're imposing sanctions, they're imposing rules, they're forcing things, and they're creating unbearable crisis. Have I really run out of time? Don't worry, I'll wrap up quickly. When businesses are built on men and women, real people with flesh and blood who experience inequality, social injustice, struggling with the inconsistency of our era. If you close your eyes to that, you are shooting yourself in the foot, because if you can't attract talent, if you can't recruit, if you can't give your employees a sense of meaning in the work, a sense of purpose, how will you help people to want to work for you in such a tough time? So the reality is that these CSR issues, rather than looking at them as an impact issue which will have a deep, thoroughgoing impact on society, they're being approached as KPI issues, as indicators or boxes to be ticked at the end of a financial year to see have we done it. Most bosses, if you just allow me to finish, most bosses will say it's just something that they are struggling with because these KPIs are stopping them from doing business, stopping them from being competitive. Sometimes it's true, but what are we talking about? We're talking about countries, we're talking about businesses that have the resources to make the world a little bit better than what it is today. So either we can focus on our short-term results, or we need to think about future generations and the state of the planet. We've never seen so many crises: floods, forest fires, bushfires. Look at the weather that we are experiencing. We're having a heat wave that we've never seen before this week. Either we should take our responsibilities as people to say this planet doesn't belong to us, with other people who are going to inherit it from us, and we need to leave it in a clean state, or we will say the only thing that counts is our profitability, and we will drive straight into a brick wall. I'm wrapping up, I promise you, I promise. When people tell me it's difficult, at Ring, that's not what we say. We're not saying we want to be seen as brilliant in our public appearances. When we say to our teams that we say, if we don't achieve 50% of our social impacts on society, we won't be paid. We gave out 250,000 euros to associations, charities that are working on social environmental issues. Why did we do that? Because these associations, even though they are working really hard to do great work, if they don't get the financial resources they need, they won't be able to move out. Our foundation distributes more than 7 million to social environmental causes. Is that a problem for business? No, not at all. It makes the business even more credible. So that's a decision that we need to take together, and no one can decide on things on their own just because business and profit is the most important. No one can decide on the future that we want to build for the future generations. Thank you. What an incredible advocacy. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to come back to one point. You talk about some of the companies that say they've taken a step back and they're wrong to do so. No, I haven't pointed them out. They've pointed them out themselves. Are they not just tracking with a social society. When have businesses just followed the movement in society? When you create a business, when you look for clients, is it about following what's going on in society? No. You'll say, no, it's not my fault. Do you understand? Everyone's doing it. Is that what you're going to say? No. Where are we going to go if we make those kind of excuses? Thank you. I think we've understood your message. Let's go round the panel once more, quite quickly this time, just to check whether CSR goes beyond words into actions and making a real transformatory difference in society. I'm going to ask each of our speakers to talk about one measure that they are talking about, working on, one issue, one target in their CSR strategy, one thing that they're trying to challenge the public authorities about, something that they'd like to implement in order to boost this societal transformation. Marie-Aude. 2 points that I'd like to raise awareness of. When we talk about indicators, that is an administrative burden. There's the European CSRD directive, which requires 1,000 indicators to be filled in. People talk about simplifying things for businesses, so the small businesses don't have to do it. Businesses are being forced to invest money to carry out reporting, but perhaps simplification would mean 20 indicators, which would be really key, but everyone would have to do it. I think the key thing is action rather than reporting. Second brief point about AI is probably something I'd like to be a whistleblower about. There are incredible opportunities here, but AI can be a way of excluding people. These tools provide a way of selecting all the right risks. If you select all of the right or the good risks, that means that you don't take the other risks, and so that would increase the number of people who are uninsured, and that would increase the vulnerability of our population, our communities. That's true right around the world, and so that's something I think we need to be very careful about. How should we use AI in an ethical way? And that's something that we need to think about right across the world, right across the stakeholders. We've been using AI for 10 years now with a very strong ethical policy, but it does need to be regulated to make sure there aren't abuses. So let's not focus too much on CSRD and let's use AI properly. What about you? What are you working on to move forward? I don't want to say any more about CSRD, but I agree with the idea of simplification, that's for sure. The issue, as you said, is that we need an action-focused CSR. I think that public authorities also have the responsibility to stimulate and facilitate CSR in order to create conditions, stable conditions for businesses in order to take action. Let me give you an example of this. This digital transition around AI is something we've been working on. We've been working on our staff having 3 languages. We've had a training plan, and I think we should welcome the plan that was launched on the 1st of July, just this week, in helping companies and people, employees in SMEs and small businesses in France to dare to use AI to roll it out to 250,000 employees by 2030. We've got scientific champions in this area, but we are lagging well behind in support that we provide to working French people in this area. So I would like us, who are the European champions of production-based taxes, I would like us to become the European champions of AI. We don't want to leave French people behind. Using AI, daring to use AI is great, but we need to go faster and we need to go further. Great. I understand that business leaders want to see stability. Christophe, what do you work on within SNCF passengers? I want to talk about one thing. I want to talk about company cars. 5% of French people have company cars. That's 1.3 million company cars around France. That's part of their salary. There's a tax break. It's benefit in kind for mobility. I want to suggest that people don't get a company car, but a company train. Let me explain what I mean. We have many staff members who use their company car because they get it almost free of charge, in inverted commas, and that enables them to do long distance journeys. I think we could offer company train packages for people who want to take the train because they have environmental concerns. So we need to make a rail credit. A company car was about 10,000 euros. So you could give staff members 10,000 euros to travel by train for themselves and their families. There are other people who use cars for commuting. They don't necessarily need a big 4x4. They could just use a little city car, and we could give them 5,000 euros in train credits. So we're ready to do that. It will need a government measure, tax-rated measure. It won't require any changes in the overall tax envelope, but it's just a change in the way it's focused. I think we could decarbonise mobility as well. Have you suggested that to the Ministry of Economy? What have they said? Well, I'm waiting for an answer now. Watch this space. It's a great idea. Elisabeth, MORENO, we haven't talked about Ring. Have you got enough entrepreneurs to invest in? What do you need to be able to invest more? Let me answer the question. Personally and professionally, everyone wants to change the world, but very few of us want to change ourselves in order to change the world. So we talk a lot about the companies that are doing harm to the world, but I talk a lot about the companies that are doing good. There are lots of great, virtuous examples. 4 of them are represented here. L'Oreal's second biggest market is the USA, and they said, we're not going to take a step back, despite the threats. Sodexo as well, lots of French companies we can be very proud of because they're doing good, and they provide inspiration to those who have wanted to take a step back. I talk about those companies. I think there is hope. There are some people who are doing things the right way. On a professional level, one of the biggest challenges we've got within Ring is to convince investors that we can make money by doing what's right, what's needed for the planet. We've got 470 million euros in funds, and 100% of this money is invested in women and men who found businesses that are focusing on ecological transition, health, financial inclusion, and things like that. When you use money to do what is necessary, useful, what is right, and at the same time you can grow your investment, I think it's a virtuous model. But a lot of people think that investing in a social and environmental impact fund is doing what the Red Cross does and a charity. No, we're not social workers. We're just people who are full of common sense. Investing 100, 200, 300,000 euros in a startup company which is working on carpooling or car sharing. That's perhaps an intermediate solution between company cars and company trains, like our colleague was just talking about. When you invest in a company that is using big bottles of water for water fountains rather than giving out bottles of water with plastic, if you're working in startups that connect charities and businesses and public policy, when you've got startups that are working on school exclusion, these are vital issues for our future. It's a great way of investing money in virtuous solutions. In France, in particular, we often think that making money is a bad thing, and when we invest things, we put it into savings accounts. It's not investment. Rather than leaving this money dormant, let's invest it to make things better in society, and that's one of the biggest things. So when you think that a social and environmental impact fund can be positive for ourselves, for our society, and for the world in general, I think we will have made a big win. Thank you very much. We need more ring capital, or perhaps we should put our money into ring capital. Yes, we're looking for investors. We'll take everything that you've got to give us. One question, just a quick question from the floor. Sir, you're going to need to be very quick. Good morning. Ms. MORENO, I completely agree with what you're saying, but I've got a question. I'm a financial auditor. I've got companies that are SMEs and intermediate size companies. They were very happy to see the CSRD directive replaced by the Omnibus directive because they want things simplified. How can we help these companies be virtuous? They can't be competitive in price terms because US companies don't have the same rules. They can't play on a level playing field with them. That's an excellent question without getting into technical details, but one of the reasons why business leaders, or some of them in certain cases, are speaking out against CSR is because they think it will stop them being competitive, that they won't be able to compete with other companies. What we need to say that some people think that CSR is a first world problem and that the reality on the ground is very different. What we need to do is to transform this issue of corporate social responsibility into a teaching tool to understand the impact that we can have on society and to make it just easier to use and implement. We need to ensure that public policy supports companies so that they don't lose competitivity. It is a virtuous circle that we need to create whereby companies and the authorities work together to look about how you can simplify and relieve the burden without denying the essential commitments. Thank you very much, Elisabeth. Another question. Mathieu Prix-Dessous, I'm a head of business in Germany, and there is a position from the German businesses to push businesses towards CSR in order to improve productivity. In Germany, which is a very strong exporting country, we see that European regulations can help us to create non-tariff barriers in order to defend our markets against the USA. So in my view, there are two aspects that could respond to what the previous questioner asked. One is focusing on productivity, but also building instruments in Europe in a world where we'll need to protect our markets. So I think CSR is a way that we can use win-win policies. That's a great comment. Let's not forget that as consumers, the best way to help our CSR committed companies is to buy their products. There's no regulation which will make our businesses more competitive than the choices that you make. So if you're interested in these issues, before you buy businesses' products, look at its CSR commitments. That's the best tool we can use to promote competitivity. That's the best thing we have in this world. Thank you very much. I want to hand over to Ariel to wrap up. Thank you, all four of you. Thank you much, Séverin. This has been a very interesting and rich panel. A few things that I've noted. CSR, as Christophe FANICHET said, is not something for tomorrow. It's today. If we don't hold on to it and grip it, it's going to be a disaster. It can be a boost for CSR strategy, but this era is also a time where we see exactly what the true intention of the different businesses are. Businesses have a central role to play in society, and we realise that there have been sessions about what's the business's role in society, but we see clearly that businesses don't just have an economic role. Economics is tied in with social aspects, environmental aspects. It's all connected, and companies invest money, they do things, they're at the heart of this transformation in society. Another thing that I would note is that for companies that are afraid of implementing CSR strategies because it costs money, I have noted that CSR is a way for companies to stand out and be attractive, to attract new staff, attract stakeholders. So companies shouldn't be afraid of CSR. They really need to get hold of the subject and grip it. Another word that I heard is that CSR is about trust. We need to talk about it as well. That jam that Elisabeth talked about needs to be spread. The word needs to be spread because good practices can inspire people and give new ideas for development. I heard people saying that with all measures that are being taken, CSR is not just going to be, should not just be an issue of KPIs and indicators. We need to enable companies to put genuine actions in place on the ground. Thank you very much to all of you.